Picture a highly exclusive VIP club. In the old days of IT security, we treated our networks like a medieval castle with a moat. Once you crossed that drawbridge and got inside the walls, you were trusted completely to just roam the halls. But today, IT security is no longer a castle with a moat. It's that VIP club where everyone's ID is checked at every single door, hallway, and lounge area, no matter who they are.
We're leaving the old trusted network strategy in the dust because our modern reality demands it. See, in the past, attacks were primarily network-based, so defending the perimeter made a lot of sense. But today, our digital assets have left the building. Employees are working from home, they're using their own mobile devices, and logging into software-as-a-service applications way outside the corporate firewall. Because these assets are leaving the network, attackers have completely shifted their focus. They aren't just trying to break through a firewall anymore. They are actively targeting identities through phishing and credential theft. Identity is the new battleground.
All right, let's look at our roadmap. We're going to cover the Zero Trust shift, walk through the 3 core principles: verify explicitly, least privilege access, and assume breach, and then wrap up with the 6 security pillars.
The contrast here is actually pretty fascinating. The old trusted network model assumes that if you're physically sitting at a desk in the corporate office, you're safe. It just trusts you by default. But the new zero trust paradigm fundamentally assumes zero trust, regardless of your location. It operates on the hard rule that absolutely no user, device, or application should be trusted by default. And for your AB 900 exam, remember that this shift is absolutely crucial for modern hybrid work. You literally cannot rely on where a user is, you must continuously prove who they are.
Okay, principle number 1, verify explicitly. Think back to our VIP club analogy for a second. The bouncer doesn't just check your ID once at the front door. They check it again at the bar, again at the VIP lounge, and they're watching as you head for the exit.
In plain English, verify explicitly means every single request to access a system has to be double-checked using all available clues, or what we call context signals. When a user makes a request, before any access decision is actually made, we check those context signals against our admin policies. We're not just looking at a static username and password anymore. We are looking at dynamic context. Things like, what's the health of the device? Where is the user located? What's their behavioral risk level? By moving from static credentials to dynamic context, we make sure that every request, which, remember, Zero Trust assumes could be malicious, is authenticated and authorized properly.
For Microsoft 365, the technical engine driving this principle is conditional access in Microsoft Enter ID. Conditional access lets you, the administrator, set highly granular rules. For instance, you can create a policy saying, hey, if a user is accessing SharePoint from outside the corporate network, require multi-factor authentication. Or, if they're trying to connect from a device that hasn't been updated and isn't compliant with Microsoft Intune, block them entirely. It even supports session controls, like restricting a contractor to read-only mode so they can't download sensitive files. As an AB 900 candidate, you need to understand that this is exactly how you turn the theory of verify explicitly into automated reality.
A really massive part of conditional access is risk-based authentication and MFA. Entra Identity Protection uses machine learning to flag anomalies. Let's say you log in from New York, and 10 minutes later, boom, there's a login attempt for that exact same account from Tokyo. That is impossible travel. The system instantly flags this as high risk. Now, to balance security with usability, the system doesn't prompt you for MFA every single time you click a button, because that would be incredibly frustrating. Instead, it triggers passwordless or FIDO2 MFA dynamically only when the risk level actually demands it.
That brings us to our second core principle, least privilege access. If verify explicitly is the bouncer checking IDs, least privilege is the corporate keycard. Think about it. If you work in HR on the 3rd floor, your keycard opens the front lobby and the 3rd floor doors. It absolutely does not open the server room in the basement, and there's no way it opens the CEO's private suite. The point here is that users and applications should only be granted the minimum level of access necessary to do their specific jobs. When a request comes in, their role is verified against admin controls and they get limited access. Why does this matter so much? Because if an attacker steals that HR employee's credentials, they're contained to the 3rd floor. By limiting access, you drastically shrink your attack surface and contain potential breaches before they spread. We enforce this in Microsoft 365 using Role-Based Access Control, or RBAC. Here's a classic scenario you definitely need to know for the AB 900 exam. Imagine you hire a new help desk tech, and their job is to help users who get locked out of their accounts. You do not give them global administrator rights. Instead, you assign them the highly specific
password administrator role. This gives them the exact permissions needed to reset passwords, but completely blocks them from opening user mailboxes or messing with security policies. This prevents privilege creep, which is what happens when users just accumulate unnecessary permissions over time.
But what about your top-level IT admins, the ones who occasionally actually need those keys to the kingdom? Well, that's where Privileged Identity Management, or PIM, comes into play. PIM provides just-in-time access. Instead of a global admin having elevated privileges 24/7, they just operate as a standard user. When they need to do something highly sensitive, they request temporary elevation. That request goes through an approval workflow, they get the power they need for, let's say, 2 hours, and when the timer runs out, the privileges are automatically revoked. It is a brilliant way to make sure high-level access isn't just sitting idle, waiting to be hacked.
All right, moving to our third and final core principle, assume breach. Imagine a hospital dealing with a highly contagious virus.
The doctors don't just lock the front doors and assume everyone inside is perfectly safe. They assume the virus might already be inside the building. So they set up quarantine zones, isolate specific floors, and continuously monitor every single hallway. Assume breach is a profound shift in mindset from pure prevention to rapid containment. You operate under the assumption that attackers are already inside your network. Therefore, every single component is treated as potentially compromised. This mindset translates into a rapid response reality. An anomaly is detected, service analytics investigate, the threat gets isolated and is contained. It relies heavily on continuous telemetry across your entire digital estate to catch things the exact moment they go wrong.
To pull this off in Microsoft 365, we rely on a real heavy-hitting trio of tools. First, Defender for Endpoint isolates devices that show signs of ransomware or lateral movement using behavioral analytics. Second, Microsoft Sentinel connects the dots. It acts as our bird's eye view, aggregating logs across all domains to link, say, a random phishing email to a strange login attempt. And third, Defender for Identity specifically watches your Entra ID traffic to catch complex identity attacks like pass the hash. Together, they make sure that when a breach happens, you see it and you stop it instantly.
So we have our 3 principles down. Let's transition to the architectural application of these principles. Implementing Zero Trust isn't just buying one piece of software. It's a layered approach.
Microsoft's architecture guidelines lay out 6 interdependent pillars of Zero Trust security: identity, endpoints, data, apps, infrastructure, and network. And all of these are connected by overarching visibility, automation, and orchestration. Let's break down exactly what happens in each one.
Pillar 1 is identity, the absolute cornerstone of Zero Trust. Think of it as your digital passport. Microsoft Entra ID gives you centralized identity management. Instead of relying on weak passwords that are easily stolen, Entra ID lets organizations roll out passwordless sign-ins using Windows Hello for Business or the Microsoft Authenticator app. When a user tries to access a resource, Entra ID evaluates their digital passport, checks the risk signals, and applies admin policy to deliver a secure authentication result.
Pillar 2 is endpoints. An endpoint is literally any device, laptop, phone, tablet connecting to your data. Just like we verify the user's identity, we absolutely have to verify the device's health. We do this primarily through Microsoft Intune. If a device wants to connect, Intune checks its compliance. Does it have a minimum operating system? Is the hard drive encrypted? If a user tries to log into Microsoft Teams from a jailbroken personal phone, Intune flags it as non-compliant, and the system automatically quarantines or blocks that device from accessing corporate resources.
Next up, Pillar 3, applications. In modern businesses, employees love using unsanctioned software. We call this shadow IT. To lock this down, Microsoft Defender for Cloud Apps acts as a monitor. If an employee tries to upload a highly sensitive corporate spreadsheet to their personal, unapproved Dropbox account, Defender for Cloud Apps detects this and just blocks the session. On top of that, Entra ID's app proxy allows remote workers to securely access on-premises applications without ever exposing those servers to the public internet.
Pillar 4 is data, because at the end of the day, protecting data is the entire goal of Zero Trust. Think about how a government handles classified documents. Microsoft Purview Information Protection lets you digitally apply that exact same concept. If a document contains credit card numbers, Purview can automatically inspect it, label it as confidential, and encrypt it. Plus, Data Loss Prevention, or DLP, ensures that if a user tries to email that classified document outside the company, the system simply blocks the email from going out.
Pillar 5 is infrastructure, which covers your servers and cloud environments. Microsoft Defender for Cloud is constantly assessing your security posture across multi-cloud environments,
Yes, even AWS and Google Cloud, checking for vulnerabilities like virtual machines left exposed to the internet. To prevent those misconfigurations from happening in the first place, we use Azure Policy. Azure Policy enforces deployment rules. For example, it can mandate that every new server created must have encryption enabled. If it doesn't meet the policy, it simply cannot be deployed.
And finally, Pillar 6, network. Even though we assume breach and we don't trust the network, we still have to secure the plumbing. Network segmentation is key here. Azure Firewall restricts outbound traffic so data can't be easily exfiltrated to malicious servers. And remember Defender for Identity from earlier? Is continuously monitoring this network traffic, looking for attackers trying to move laterally from one compromised system to another, which allows your team to cut off their access immediately.
All right, we've covered the 3 principles and the 6 pillars. Now, as you gear up for your AB 900 exam, I want to leave you with something to really think about. As a future Microsoft 365 administrator, you aren't just memorizing definitions here, you are building defenses. So ask yourself, how will you apply the concept ladder we just walked through from understanding the plain English analogy, to knowing the technical service, to applying the actual business outcome, to configure your very first conditional access policy in your own tenant? Think about the signals you'll verify, the privileges you're going to limit, and the breaches you'll contain.